Hey, it's World Series night tonight.
Oh, we gotta get this thing going.
Just Donna.
Are we waiting for someone?
We're waiting for them to turn the TV
Oh,
on.
the TV. What's today, the 24th?
24th.
October 24th.
It's gonna be November 1st. It's unbelievable.
Oh, applications due.
Good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, October 24th. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we begin tonight's meeting, I would like to observe a moment of silence in memory of Colleen Ritzer. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Danvers school community and the families and friends of all involved in this horrible tragedy. Teachers are so important, and it is unimaginable that the career of a teacher with so much passion and promise has been cut short in a time when our young people need teachers like her the most. So if we could just take a moment. Thank you. Okay. It's hard to start the
I
meeting
know,
now after that.
That's tough.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items which include approval of regular session minutes of October 10th, 2013, budget finance minutes of September 18th, 2013, safety minutes of September 12th, 2013, safety minutes of October 10th, 2013, and governance minutes of September 26th, 2013, along with acceptance of warrants number 17V14 and number 16P14.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mary Beth?
Hi.
Hi.
So we just celebrated as a school Unity Day last Wednesday, where we all, or 2 Wednesdays ago, where we all dressed up in orange. I talked about
Yep.
that. And it went really well. So in memory of Unity Day, we're doing a game at lunch every single day in the high school, where we try to involve like seniors getting to know freshmen, you know, that sort of thing. So people are with friends that they've never met before. So last week we did a game where there was a team of 1 senior, 1 junior, 1 sophomore, and 1 freshman, 2 teams. And they had to work together, and it was really fun, and they got ribbons, orange ribbons, as prizes.
Very nice.
And tomorrow we're doing another game, and instead of orange ribbons, they're going to win munchkins. So,
Oh, no.
yeah.
This policy.
So,
If they're munchkins, they're probably small enough and they'll be on the A list.
Right.
Hope so.
The portion size will be okay, Joan.
Promoting family
I'm all for
relations, right?
munchkin.
so then this Wednesday we did breast cancer awareness, so we all dressed up in pink, and a club at the school, they gave out, they're selling pink ribbons, and I have one in my backpack, and a lot of people are participating in that. And then we also had Red Sox Day yesterday.
Yes.
So our school is like doing a lot to like dress up and kind of come together and dress up the same way, and it's kind of nice, so that was fun. The other thing I want to talk about is Mr. Lucia talked to us all at lunch about the Danvers incident and how like we all need to remember to be safe, and like if you see someone at the door, like it could be your friend, don't let them in anyway. There could be someone right around the corner, sort of thing. Just reminding us of that we have to keep that in mind and try to be safe and everything like that. So
Yeah, I think that's great because my kids came home today all saying that. That the principal had said that. He's like, even if it's me, you know, like, don't open the door. And the kids were like, Mom, I can't even open it if it's someone that I know that belongs in the school. I'm like, you're right. Unless they're buzzed in, don't think you can do that.
But
So that's good.
I like what you're saying, though, Mary Beth, about this whole issue of unity, because I think along with us being very cautious and aware of our surroundings is also the importance of being inclusive.
Right.
And really welcoming people into, people that are different or maybe a little, maybe not as popular. The fact that, if everybody has dreams and goals and hopes for themselves, and sometimes, people express them differently. And it is important sometimes to recognize that and to figure out ways to meet people that are not necessarily the same peers that
Right.
you gravitate towards. So I think that's great that the school, in coordination with being safe and being vigilant and aware of your surroundings, is also balancing that with working on a culture that includes everyone, so that students are not bullied or not excluded as much as we can possibly do. So I
Right.
think those two things working together are great.
And I think my kids told me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lucia, but you were also telling kids to reach out to an adult or to a teacher if they need help, or if they think anybody else needs help, you know, any kind of help at all. That's always, that's a good thing to do.
That's great. Thanks for doing that today. I'm sure all the principals had a difficult time
Yeah, it's not
today,
Thank you.
so thank you for,
Thank
Well,
you.
yesterday,
kids and the
yesterday it was
staff at
shock.
ease.
Today it's more
Yeah.
reality, right? People are, it's sinking in.
Yeah.
okay, is that?
That's it.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. She has a test tomorrow, so.
Oh.
Government test.
Oh, gee,
Yeah.
Okay, Chief Cudmore's here.
he is.
You could come on up.
Come on up,
talk
Chief
to us.
Cudmore. So last meeting, there were some questions that were raised about the participation in NEMLEC. And I know many of you did some research on your own. I had recorded some questions that you had asked of me, and I spoke to the chief about them. I did write them up in your orange notes, the answers to the questions. In particular, you know, what does this membership in NEMLEC, like, really add value? How does it add value to what we currently may have available? And I think Alana's question had to do with, you know, how does this substitute for the SRO? And as I explained to you in this, in these notes, it is not a substitute for the SRO. That's not its intention. The chief and I, especially given these latest couple of incidences, you know, feel more strongly than ever that the SRO program is something that we want to continue to advocate for. So hopefully in the course of this budget process, maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, you know, more fully. But the chief, you know, after talking with him about this, after we met, said I'd be happy to come to the meeting in case there's any questions. You know, from what I can tell from NEMLEC, and I put the flyer in your packet again, is as the chief explained to me, NEMLEC is just an additional insurance policy for the schools and the town to provide resources, not only in the case of a crisis or an emergency, but one of the things we talked about is in the case in Danvers, NEMLEC has been instrumental in really managing that crisis. So it's a good example right in our back door of how this resource came to bear. But there are 3 elements of the NEMLEC membership of which we would benefit from all of them, but the one we're most interested in is the one in your packet, which is the STARS program. It's short money. We talked about that the last time. The chief was able to go to the Board of Selectmen on Monday night and explain, you know, why this was important, and he got endorsement and support from the Board of Selectmen, and reported to them that we were coming back before you on Thursday to see if the school committee would be willing to appropriate money for this membership. So the chief is here. He'd be happy to answer any specific questions or share any experiences with you. But once again, I recommend strongly that as a committee, we use money from the school choice revolving account, the $2,400, and we pursue this.
I think too, if I could add to the superintendent's words concerning NEMLEC, is I look at 3 other areas where the SRO program would certainly have helped and has helped in the past. And in 2009, if you look at the district as a whole, we were able to plan and prepare the crisis manual with the superintendent's office on a full-time basis. It's not being done on a full-time basis because we don't have someone full-time allocated to that. However, we're doing everything humanly possible in both departments, and we are actively working on it. I think the representative from the school committee who attends the safety meetings she knows that it's an active document for us. But I think my mission with regard to NEMLEC is that we need preparation, analysis, and assessment. And the insurance policy portion of it is in the event we do have a crisis, whether it's a minor crisis or a major crisis such as just occurred in one of our local communities, that we have someone that we can look to, and that it's a partnership that's already been formed, so that when we call upon them for services, and it's not just law enforcement services. I think that what was attractive to me when I attended the meeting was, of course, NEMLEC has a SWAT component and a special response component for dangerous and threatening situations. But what they do have is they have a counseling component, then they have that threat assessment component that's attractive to me. I'm looking towards that more than the SWAT component. And you get that, but the specialization for me with Georgetown is that we have our own school district. And Georgetown, as it's been proven over the years, is a very independent community. We have our own school district, pre-K through 12, we have our own ambulance service, we have our own everything. So, and the fact that we're independent, we don't really rely on regional resources. Well,
Right.
if you can rely on some regional resources in some certain areas, you can obviously gain from that benefit.
Right.
The Georgetown Police Department is only so big. I've actually told the board that my department, if you want to take an example, you look at the population growth in Georgetown since 2000, we have not added to staff, full-time basis on the police department in 13 years. Yet the population has gained 30%, my call volume is through the roof, and we're doing what we can with what we get, just like any other town department. But we are coming to a crossroads. We can't run the police department on a part-time basis. You know, the town is a busy place, our district is a busy place, and I'm just trying, you know, the grant didn't work out. I crossed my fingers like everyone, it just didn't work out. The data wasn't there for us. It doesn't mean, though, that we're not in need.
There's not a need.
That there's not a need. And so we take our available resources and we seek alternatives. And I think that this is not a cure-all, it's not an end-all, but it's a beginning and a start to have something in place in our school district in conjunction with our police department and our administration to help us.
Tom, can you just say for the committee's benefit, when you and I talked, you talked about what we have, how, if something happened here, what we would have available to us for resources, like in the
Right.
neighboring communities, and then how does that compare with what NEMLIC can bring to the table? Because that was helpful to me
Right.
when I heard you talk about that.
In a law enforcement model, when there's a call or a need for additional resources other than the police department that's on duty or the services that your local police department can provide, we request mutual aid. So our surrounding communities, our contiguous towns will respond and help us. But that response, because we're pulling from those communities, will only last so long, whether the threat has been reduced or the situation is isolated enough where their services are no longer needed. But they're not specialized services. NEMLEC offers a specialized service for active response that includes all of those services, and they stay until these services are no longer needed. And using the tragedy that just occurred, and there have been some before, and I'm sorry to say that there'll be some afterwards, that you can pull those regional services together and have that capability of working with people who have done it before. They have resources that we don't have. And quite frankly, our smaller communities around us, including the state police, will move on to another incident, and we're the ones who are going to have to handle this situation that has occurred in our community. And our resources will be drained, and we'll need that help. I think that that in a nutshell is why they call it an insurance policy. But I think outside that part is the ability to pull the resources they offer, that assessment, that strategic planning, not reinventing the wheel is something out. Everybody who has a school district in their city or town has had to deal with threat assessment, has had to deal with counseling services, so it's out there.
Right.
And if we can extrapolate from those regional services and use them to our benefit for really at no cost, this isn't about money. You know, it cannot be about money anymore.
$2,400 isn't
You know,
about money.
And I'm going to find the other half in the expense line item for the police department. And the give back that I have is I have to assign an officer to this program and go be trained and bring back those resources for our school district. And then we will work with our administrators to provide additional assistance that we need. I think the district needs it. The thing about safety planning and the thing about crisis manuals is you don't create the manual and it just sits there. It has to be reviewed really on a yearly basis because of the population changes within the district. But more importantly, quarterly. I mean, they should be looked at, every 60 to 90 days to ensure that things have not changed. And that's part of our assessment plan. Physical plant and security of your buildings changes all the time. We see that as tight as we can lock our buildings down. I had a meeting with the staff and with the superintendent and the administrators, and we can't guarantee people's safety. We just cannot do that. What we need to do is we need to train our people, train our students, train our police to be able to deal with these daily threats, because we've become targets, and we want to ensure that we're prepared and that we're alert and that we're able to deal with what is asked of us as the police, as administrators, and as teachers.
So, how would you make the determination as to what officer will go to the program? Like, will you ask who's interested?
I've spoken to the staff, and I've also spoken to the superintendent's office, and we'll make that decision together as far as which officer. I know the officers that are tactically able to handle the position is also willing and able to serve. It will not be a random assignment.
So it'll be someone that's looking forward to doing that.
Yes, because it's work for them. They have to go and get the training and then be able to come back and provide that, and it's overtime in some cases, so it'll definitely
And I think, we're coming in mid-year, towards the end of the year, actually, and I'm sure there'll be a prorate, and if it is, then I'll have a different number. That's the maximum that we...
Right, so we'll say not to exceed.
So, but most importantly is that our plan will be that, where are we in the school year now? How many days we have?
Are we a quarter way through? Principal?
Not
More
yet.
than that?
Not yet.
When are we a quarter?
2 weeks, I think.
November 7th.
It's,
Yeah.
right around there.
Yeah, early November?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, so we're still in the first quarter.
Good, so we have time.
Yep.
So the plan is to take a serious look at our crisis manual and make sure that it's been updated and utilize the services as quick as we can. And maybe not have to reinvent the wheel in some areas where we can pull from those regional resources. And that's the plan.
So at the last meeting, we directed the committee members to point any questions to you.
Yes, and I got the
And-
questions answered for
And
you.
no other,
There was nothing else that came up that's not, answered. And I think having the chief come,
Yeah, I agree.
was another option to have further discussion and questions.
yeah, I think once, as soon as the meeting was over, I went home and I checked out the website. It was, very informative, after looking at it. I
And
didn't-
we're committing the funds
definitely
for a
a lot.
year,
Right.
right? It's something that there's an annual fee, so we would need to budget for this if this became something that we wanted to do long-term. But, the year would give us a good opportunity to, really get a feel for what the benefits are. Even if we don't have a crisis, just looking at the crisis manual would be, and a risk assessment would be a great first step for
Well, I
us.
think
the
it-
process of
what- to
updating the
And the
crisis
training
manual
for
will be
the
critical.
officer.
Yeah.
And I think that it's train the trainer, so the reason why you have to commit an officer to the program is so that it's self-sustaining.
Right.
So that every community that belongs in NLAC creates this team throughout Essex and Middlesex County. So that creates the NLAC team.
The NLAC,
So-
right.
So the person that you commit to that, and if you have specialized services and equipment, I have some equipment that I can at least offer NLAC in return so that I can have specialized equipment and response back to Georgetown.
So our officer would then be
Part of the team.
part of the team and responding to another, if there was a crisis in another
Correct.
community.
And the fortunate part for Georgetown is that the NLAC response comes from North Andover. I mean,
They're
it's
local.
It's
Yeah.
15 minutes away, so Georgetown's strategically located to take advantage of that. And
good
that was
point.
also attractive to me, as opposed to someone, if I said they were responding from Fort Devens or something, that's a bit of a problem. You need someone here pretty quick.
Exactly.
But that
Or Franklin,
assessment,
Mass.
that's
or
the
something.
mutual aid component from our contiguous towns.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
we bring in those specialized services if we need them. But most importantly, we can pull from them to begin our plan.
Excellent. I think it
It's
sounds like a
needed.
great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And thank you for coming tonight to talk about it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to, the chair will entertain a motion to approve an amount not to exceed $2,400 from the school choice revolving account to join NEMLEC with the Georgetown Police Department for the 2013-2014 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you
Thank you
again.
very
Thank
much.
you, Chief.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Good
it.
night.
Thanks, you too.
And we'll have the chief back when we talk about the school resource officer.
Yes.
Because that, we don't want that to go off the radar screen.
No, we
Yes,
don't.
I
Let's keep
I
trying.
told the selectmen that budget time, it seems like it's tomorrow, but.
Yeah, it is tomorrow.
It is in December, and there is some planning, there's a 5-year plan in place that I'll be presenting, including the immediacy of the SRO as well.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone from the audience that would like to discuss anything on the agenda?
That isn't on the agenda.
That isn't on the agenda. Okay, so Mary Ann, you want to come on up?
Come on up, Mary Ann.
I love hearing about these senior celebration things.
They're always a secret though, so we can't talk about
Yes.
the details.
They are, I know, how do they always find out?
Especially with the senior sitting right at the table here. So we can't be. But as I explained to you in the orange notes, the senior celebration every year, it used to come before the committee for approval of the trip.
Right.
But because it's not a school-sponsored trip, they actually take full responsibility for not only getting it, organizing it, but they have the liability that they also assume and parents
Yeah.
sign off. So it's really a great opportunity for the students who take advantage, and most students do go on the
Most
trip,
students
don't
do.
they?
Yeah, they
Mary
do.
Ann?
I heard last year that there was, I would say 2/3 participated.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get that up to even more.
That would be
because
great.
what we're gonna do is, Mary Beth, don't
No,
listen.
no.
We're gonna, and this all, I think we have to come before you just to run it by you. Mr. Lucia have to be involved with this now?
Mr. Lucia, well, actually, you don't have to get approval from anybody to do it.
Right.
It's nice if you keep the
And I
principal
always
in the
do.
loop,
I
but
always
it's,
do.
you know.
So it's gonna be whitewater rafting. And what we wanted to do is, some kids get really nervous about the whole, I've done it. Actually, we were the first class that did it. And when I went, I thought, oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this, but it was so much, it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
the most fun experience I've ever had. And what we are gonna do though is offer, I think, if kids are really nervous about it, I don't want them to say, I don't wanna go, because
Right,
it's not
because
just
of
the
that.
whitewater part of it. It's just, this is their last time together as seniors. And it's, they go up on the bus and we show the video of them from the 5th grade of when they, it's like a time capsule. It's just,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
this
that's
really
always
great
fun at the
event.
senior.
And they spend the whole night together, and there's a bonfire, and they have eat meals together, and it's this amazing sense of camaraderie, which is really the key element to it. Granted, it's like a drug and alcohol free, and that's the real
Yeah.
reason why we started it, but it's so great, and I want every kid to be able to participate. So we're gonna offer a kayaking portion, we think.
Oh, that's great. That's so
Instead
good.
of, that we're looking into it, and the organization that we're going through, North Country Rivers, is been kind enough to say, yeah, we can do that, so we're gonna.
Yeah, I'd opt for the kayak myself.
You'd be shocked at how much fun.
Yes.
rafting is. But anyway.
You're an adventurous one,
So-
Barbie. You go on the white raft.
So this portion is just the fundraising, is that correct?
So that's what, so the
Right.
committee has a policy that says that if Peter has, as the principal, has the authority to approve any fundraisers.
Right.
But if it's going to involve solicitation of staff or students during the school day, you have to
Correct.
come to the committee
Okay.
for that.
Gotcha.
So I'm assuming that some of your fundraising efforts are
Yes.
going to do that, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. So did you guys get a list of so we're gonna.
Yes.
Do you want me to run through them? Because I can run through each one, or do you have the
Well,
list?
do you
of-
have any,
Well, there's 6 of them.
but which ones are these just
Right.
listing the ones that are?
These are all
from-
bulleted,
Correct.
correct?
And the only issue that I did want to talk about, and I don't know if Mr. Lucia wants to just hear about this, is if we do sell an item, we will be sure to get approval from the store so we don't compete with them.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, like a specific item,
Yeah, I
like
know
the
that, like,
blankets
yeah,
and-
blankets might be a bit of an issue, but we thought maybe towels or seat cushions, but we'll work with the store to make sure
The
that.
cushions would be awesome for
That's what
the
we've heard.
bleachers.
Some of those bleachers,
I would
I was
really-
over there this week,
yeah.
they're cold.
They're cool,
So-
and they can use them for so many different sports.
So we have a lot of different ideas, but yes, but we would never let it,
I just have a question about the raffle license. Who do you get a raffle license from?
so you get it from the state, and that's
State.
something that I just heard about from the previous committee, from Ellen DeGilia, who ran the
You know
previous
all about
committee.
Yeah, these guys are experts at that.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so you know that's, so we're still looking at that,
To
but
declare a certain amount of it
yeah,
too,
we're
right?
thinking we probably will go ahead with that. And if so, and I'm not quite sure all of the logistics to the whole procedure, but I know we have to get the license from the state in order to
Right.
do it. And not let the kids do any of that, so.
From
And the
the
kids,
state, what?
The state,
It's a state.
Yeah, it's a state, you have
the
to
state gaming
pay.
commission, correct.
Commission.
It's a gaming commission.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just keep in mind that the kids never, ever do any, they never touch any of this stuff, so it's just the parents and just the committee doing it.
They don't sell
No.
raffle tickets
Nope.
themselves, okay.
So in the end, after all this fundraising, then you figure out, okay, how much money now do we need on top of that? And then you
Correct.
ask each parent.
Correct, and that's when we would be, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the hypnotist show, is that a night that we have a school
I hope
committee
not, 'cause
meeting?
it
Because
seems
it
to
was
be
last
always-
time.
It's a Thursday.
Thursday.
It's
Yes.
Thursday.
It's Thursday, November 14th. How does that happen?
I don't know.
I don't know, Rudy's the one, Mr. Covington, we kind of kicks off School Spirit Week, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I know
It's
he's
so
busy.
much
It makes
fun.
I know he's
Yeah.
busy,
It's so much fun.
I've
But it
heard.
does always end up being a school committee night. Too bad we couldn't sometime, maybe some year we could do it on a Wednesday night that same week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
every
You
year
really
the
should.
committee says, oh, they
Wanna
start
go.
taking
So much
turns.
fun.
I
It's a
remember
hoot.
Cole couldn't go last year.
Yeah.
He was just, I want to go to
It's-
the hypnotist show.
It's
I'm like,
hilarious.
Well, the
It's
same
really,
with the
really
play
fun.
too.
"Oh." Right.
The play was on a school committee night,
Yeah.
so.
So maybe we could ask Rudy, Rudy knows the school committee meetings and maybe, she can't, they obviously can't restructure everything, but there are some major events that maybe, we could just
Absolutely.
pay
In fact, I'll make a
little
note to,
attention
because I'm in touch with her every day almost, sadly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it looks like a fun, exciting year for the kids, which is
Yeah.
well-deserved.
It is, it is.
No, that's great. Thank you for doing that. I know it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
pleasure.
It's like a lot of work.
It's a
Yeah.
great
It's a lot
memory
of work.
for the
I
kids,
have
though.
great women, great people on the committee with me though, so it's great.
Yeah, it looks like, that's great. Okay, do you have any questions? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the senior celebration committee fundraisers as presented.
So moved. Second.
Okay, no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you, Marion.
Great, see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
So now,
Who's next?
elementary special.
oh, just, it was Sandra.
Oh, Sandra?
Sandra
come on up.
O'Connor.
Yes. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sandra O'Connor. She goes by Sandy, right?
I do.
Yeah. And Sandy is our new elementary special education coordinator, replacing Kim Leonard, who was here for at least 9 or 10 years. Kim has moved on to another district in a similar position. So we were so worried, actually, because the timing of when Kim had decided this job opportunity was one that she wanted to accept. And she was great, and so was the other district in giving us ample time for a transition. She didn't just turn around and leave, but it was a very interesting time. And as you can imagine, someone in Sandy's position, knows families very, very well, has built relationships with families, knows a lot about, how special education cases, have progressed. And a lot of that is written, but some of it isn't, so it's always a concern when someone new comes on board for whom it's just all brand new. We were very lucky to find Sandy because she's got experience in this position. So now she does need to know the families and learn all of the ins and outs of Georgetown, but it's not like she's doing this job for the first time. So that was a great relief to us. So I wanted you to meet Sandy. I did include your, resume for the committee. And, it's really just so everybody has a name for the face. And, if anybody has any questions or anything you'd like to say, you've been here,
October
so,
1st,
yeah,
2nd.
so really only a few weeks.
but
Few
I'm
weeks.
Very, very happy to be here. I love it here. It's a great community. You have wonderful resources in your schools and fantastic staff. I'm just so impressed. It's really wonderful. Wonderful. So I'm just really happy to be here. And I have been doing this for a long time. And
Yeah, you were at your last district for a long time.
at what?
The last
last
district for a long time.
30 years.
So what made you want to,
Whole career.
Well, I was working in an urban environment, which is, different
Yep.
in a lot of ways from this environment. And I just thought it was time to, do something, have a change. And this is also administrative. It was not tagged administrative where I was before, although it's very similar.
Yeah. We used to call them facilitators, and the positions were in the union contract. And we did work with the union over the years to discuss the need for this to be more of a coordinator position that's kind of running the day-to-day operations of special education with the school and under the direction of the special education director. So, and there isn't actually an evaluation function. And that's really hard to do when you're, actually it's not possible to do when you're, equal with your colleagues. So it was necessary for us to make this administrative position. So that was an appeal to Sandy when we talked.
It was, because I did very muit the same or very similar job. However, I was not a supervisor, but you're in a supervisory position. So it could be a little bit difficult. So it's actually, I think it was a great decision for your town, for your district to move in this direction, because it's more clear cut, and I think it works better for the position, having done it for so long.
Yeah. So you can imagine how excited we were when we found somebody with experience, because we were not expecting that. We were not. So,
Yeah.
very happy we were able
I
to.
remember talking to you the day that you had found out, and you
remember.
said, "Oh my goodness,
God.
how am I going to
You know,
find
like some
somebody?"
positions are just really hard to
Yeah.
fill, and that is a position that's really hard to fill.
I'm equally as thrilled to be
That's
here.
great.
And they have not filled my position in my previous district.
Yeah.
It is difficult to find, sometimes to find people who, I think,
And I've had the pleasure of meeting you at the first CPAC meeting of the
with my
year.
little friend.
With your little friend, the robot, who was very captivating and exciting, and I hope we'll find a place in our district
robot.
at some point.
I hope
eventually.
so, yeah. That's a great
that would
project.
be
I was
neat.
sad to leave that.
Yeah, he'd be wonderful for kids. I know they would
Oh,
really.
yeah.
Yeah, he's
Be-
amazing.
Yes.
He's amazing,
Excited
yeah.
about
I
him.
brought a project in, it's on there, it's called Now NAO. And we were the first ones in the United States to get the project.
Oh.
And, yeah, and only the third school in the world that still has it as beta testing for the Autism Initiative.
yes.
I had seen it on the Today Show, and I wrote to the company and ended up getting us a project. We got 2 robots, which is $17,000 plus all of the training. So it was about $100,000 project. That was the one thing I was sad to leave.
Cutting
Yeah,
edge
that's great.
technology.
So I'm trying to. They were developed in Paris, and they just have come into Boston with the initiative. And there's a school in England, which is what was on the Today Show clip, and then Little Moody School in Haverhill. We got the project, and now they're in a school in New York City. And
So how many schools did you beat out to get that? Do you know how many people
well, it
wrote
wasn't
in?
really a beat out. It was I saw them, and I had no idea. I just wrote. I looked up the company, and I liked what I saw, and it kept sticking in my head because it really. I just envisioned it with our kids, and I just started writing to the developer, who is his name is Dr. Olivier Joubert. He's from Paris, but he's a postdoc neuropsychologist from MIT, and he's developed this. And I started writing to him, and he said, "Can we come visit you?" And I said, "Of course you can." And from there, he said, "Do you want to do this beta project?" And I said, "I think we would."
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable
great.
robot, and the robot
I
itself.
remember you talked about it after the meeting. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so I'd like to try to do something here, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Wow.
We are seeing more of the George Jetson cartoon coming into play nowadays. I was watching the other day, the people
the
wearing
watches.
watches,
Watch
talking
phones,
into their
yeah.
watches, so there's
Yeah.
definitely a lot of, and robots are one of the, one of those
It's a
features.
really incredible tool. You have to see it when you see the children with it. It's just remarkable. But outside of that, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, we are too. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Sandy, thanks for
Welcome.
coming
Very
tonight.
I know,
You're
and thanks
here.
for coming tonight too. That was
Thank you.
very nice. I'm sure we'll be seeing you around the hallways.
Absolutely.
I think so. I hope so.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, we got Shelby.
Okay. Shelby Walker-Smith.
Hi, Shelby. Walker. Shelby Walker.
Okay.
Shelby Walker.
I've never met you before, so it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
I've heard
too.
a lot of nice things about you.
Yes, after Pam had to step
Yeah.
away from the chairman of the CPAC, Shelby agreed to step in.
Yeah,
Which is
quite
no
an
small-
undertaking.
no
you know.
small undertaking.
Yes, she's doing a fabulous job.
Yeah.
And you,
Absolutely
you
fabulous.
no longer did that because you came on the committee, the school committee?
That's
Yes,
correct, yes.
yes. So Shelby's been working a couple of years, 2 years now? This
On
is
my
your
second year, yeah.
That's right. So we, as we were building the agenda schedules for this year, we thought it was important to provide, different groups with opportunities to come before the committee and do a little update. So that's why you're here tonight. Shelby, thanks for making the time. So we do have in our packet, the slides that you're gonna go through. And would you prefer people wait until the end to ask you questions, or just?
No,
if they-
feel free to interrupt me and ask any questions you like.
All right.
I'd like to formally thank the committee for having me here to share a little bit about the CPAC with you. It's quite an important organization for any school district, and I hope to explain a little more to you about the organization itself and the population of students that we help advocate for. And so, again, if you have questions, it's certainly a confusing area, and I've always found that people have a lot of questions about the students, about the role of the CPAC, both with the administration, with the committee. So ask away.
Okay, great.
Some of the areas that I'm going to touch on in this presentation include common misconceptions about students who receive special education services, problems that students typically face when they have disabilities. I'm going to give you a CPAC overview, so we'll get into the law a little bit, the history of CPAC, some of the accomplishments that CPAC had last year, some of our goals for this year. One of the most important issues that I think CPAC and the school district is facing, and we'll end up with some conclusions and hopefully some questions. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I've come across, and maybe before I get into this slide, I should give you a little history of myself. I've been working with children with special education for the last 5 or 6 years. I have 4 children, one of which has autism. He's nonverbal, apraxic, autistic. So in parenting him, I've become somewhat savvy in the world of special education, as well as advocating for children with special needs. And what I've seen, as well as others in the industry, and I'm sure Ms. Straight and Ms. O'Connor can back me up on this, is that a lot of people think that children who receive special education services have some sort of mental handicap. And what I'm here to tell you is that they don't. That children who receive services for special education not only have some sort of mental impairment, but they can also have physical disabilities, social emotional disabilities, language-based learning disorders. So it's not just this misconception that there are children with low IQs or whatnot. There really is a range of students that receive special education services. So not all children who receive special education or have special needs have a low intelligence. And in fact, 80 to 85% are actually not intellectually impaired. And what I think a lot of people also miss is that gifted students actually make up a rather large portion of students who receive special education services. And I know when I saw that factoid, it was really surprising for me, because you think students who are considered gifted wouldn't need special education services, but it's not the case. The other thing, and I think this is really touchy for me, having a child with special needs, is that people think these children are never going to be full, active participants in the community. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. The one thing that I think if I can impart to you tonight, it's that these students, if they receive appropriate services and supports, educational services and supports, are able to reach their full capabilities. And of the 15 to 20% that do have cognitive impairments, a lot of research has shown that they can actually reach academic proficiency when they receive high quality instruction. And I think that that's something that I really want to emphasize with the committee, that when they receive high quality instruction, these children are functioning at a level equal to their peers, to their non-disabled peers. Some of the problems that face children with disabilities, children that receive special education services, they drop out of high school at 2 times the rates of their peers. Quite scary. They participate in higher education, they move on to college at rates 50% lower than the general population. So these are really concerning facts when you consider that they can be as proficient as their peers. Most public school educators don't feel prepared to work with children with disabilities. This requires a very high level of training for the educators that we bring in, and I think, you know, you've seen that even in replacing Miss Leonard, that we really need specially trained educators. This, I think, is the saddest statistic that I've seen. 40% of children receiving special education services in the U.S. are not able to read. And that's a reflection of students not receiving high-quality education. So what is a CPAC? Where do we fit into these after we've sort of heard some of these, honestly, somewhat depressing statistics? These are an underserved population of students that need help. And Massachusetts is probably the most progressive state when it comes to educating students with disabilities. In 1986, the law changed to require that all schools need to establish and support a special education parent advisory committee. And I won't go into the law, but as you can see, this is Section 3 of Chapter 71B, and this sets out the fact that school districts are required to have these CPACs. There's also some state guidance, and what it says is that the district shall conduct, in cooperation with the CPAC, at least one workshop annually within the school district going over the rights of the students and their parents and guardians under both federal and state law. So there is an actual state law requirement that there is some training put together by the school district and the CPAC to educate parents on what their rights are. So, what really is a CPAC? What are we legally required to do here? We have to have an operating CPAC. If we do not have an operating CPAC, we're out of compliance with state law.
That's right.
The PAC has to offer membership to all parents and students found eligible for special education services, as well as other interested parties. The CPAC can function by providing advice to the district regarding its special education programs and policies. So what the laws really envision is that there's a dovetailing of the CPAC with the school administration in terms of designing and overviewing these special education policies. It's not a standalone, separate organization. We're really meant to work together. We are authorized to meet at certain intervals with designated school officials to engage in activities to help plan and develop special education programs. And the district must assist us in maintaining its operations and activities. Now, that doesn't mean financial assistance, but it does mean that there must be a level of support at the administrative level in order to help the CPAC function. And I'm happy to say that we meet all of those legal requirements. And in fact,
But we didn't used to for a while.
no, and a lot of school districts are still struggling with these legal requirements.
Yeah.
But we are very lucky that we have an administration that is incredibly supportive of the special education programs here in Georgetown. And having been in other districts and experienced other ways that school operations work in other states, I can tell you that we are very lucky to be in this town if you have a child with needs.
That's great.
So why is an active CPAC important? Because it functions to give parents a voice. It's a very overwhelming situation to be in, to have a child with special needs. It's isolating, it's intimidating. Aside from education, you have medical issues, you're dealing with professionals, there's all sorts of social issues as well. And the last thing you're really thinking about is education. So, what better to do than to have an organization of parents going through what other parents are going through to help support you and to help you sort of overcome this hurdle of what do I do to educate my child with needs? So it helps give parents a voice. It helps make sure that parents understand that these students are entitled to an education that is appropriate and addresses their unique needs, because not all children are the same. And if you have one child with autism, you've only seen one child with autism. Each child is different. You've only seen one child with dyslexia. Every child is different. It's also put in place to support parents and help them understand that they do have legal rights in terms of what their child is entitled to for special education services. And I think one of the things that is very intimidating for parents, and certainly it's not something that I've experienced with Georgetown, but I have with other school districts, is that it's very intimidating for a parent to be at a table, to be surrounded by school administration, by educators who know the language, who know the lingo, and you're a parent, you don't have a background in education. So you really are sitting at a disadvantage. And the role of the CPAC is really to help these parents feel comfortable approaching their educators, approaching the administration, and also learning about the language behind special education. So,
And also having a chance to meet the staff and teachers. I've been
Yes.
so impressed with the dedication of our staff and teachers who, you know, they come to quite a few meetings, not all of the meetings, because it's not always appropriate, but whenever it is, they come, because they want to be a help, they want to be a support to the families of Georgetown.
I think that's an excellent point. I actually had a conversation on Tuesday night with a co-chair of the Newburyport CPAC. And, you know, when she heard the level of participation from our administration, she was quite surprised,
very
because we have a highly active level of participation from our administration. It's not common.
And it's a great opportunity for parents, because if you're only meeting staff and administration at the IEP table, then, you know, you don't really know them as well. You don't have that chance to build a larger relationship and to build that sense of teamwork and working together that's going to most benefit your child.
And I think the reality of it as well, Pam, is that when you're meeting at an IEP table, although it shouldn't be this way, sometimes it's adversarial.
It can,
And even
it
though
can be scary, you know, and
parents-
that just pushes people into an adversarial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have parents who are upset by, you know, what they're going through with their child, and to deal with, you know, maybe feeling like they have to fight for more services for their child. It just doesn't always work out to be, you know, as collegial as it should be. That being said, that's also the role of CPAC, and we'll get into that a little bit later, how CPAC should function to educate parents on how to appropriately advocate for their children. I think we've touched on this. The role of the CPAC is really to focus on creating understanding and compassion within the community as well. This is something that I think every CPAC needs to work on every single year. It's something that we will continue to work on. But again, we need to create understanding and compassion in the community, that people are different, that there are students with disabilities, and that they are as equally entitled to sit at the table, so to speak, as other students. And finally, having an active PAC, all it does is serve to strengthen educational outcomes for all students. Having an active PAC ensures that you have parents who are ready to go in and sit at the table and understand what's going on and advocate appropriately for the children, and work as a team with the rest of the administration and educators. And that only serves the student in the end. Membership is open to parents of children with special needs and other parties. And it really should include any family whose child is receiving special education services. And this is just not students with IEPs, but it's students with IEPs, with 504 plans, and it's also any student who has an out-of-district placement. So if we don't have any questions on the laws and regulations behind CPAC, I would like to move along to the accomplishments from last year. So we focused on an increased awareness of CPAC, and I think, Pam, you're well-versed in the experience of it's very hard to get parents actively involved in CPAC. It's not something that's isolated to Georgetown. I hear from other parents. I know that Donna meets with directors of special education from other districts, and it's what it is. There's just
It's
not
one more thing sometimes too.
That's
for
right.
people. It's just to do,
That's right.
you know.
And it's hard for parents to get out at night, in the afternoon too. The CPAC has tried to have meetings in the afternoon, and that's just
hard.
as poorly, attended as their meetings at night.
That's
It's-
right.
So.
You can never please
You
everybody,
can never
right?
please everyone, but
No,
it's
we-
always
we
hard.
find that
It's always
anytime
hard.
we do an activity in the school, you get some and you get others,
So, I'm working hard to try, and we'll get into this for 2013-14, but last year we focused on an increased awareness of CPAC, and Pam did a fantastic job of amassing my goodness, over 200 contacts on an email list. So we have sort of the structure and the basic network in place to have an active CPAC. So last year we just worked on making sure the emails went out, things of that nature. What we did last year is I worked with Ms. Straight to create an introductory letter explaining what the PAC was.
Dr. Straight.
Dr. Straight.
It's okay.
Dr. Straight, to create an introductory letter that would go out to all parents of children who had an IEP or 504 plan. Now, this was a letter that was sent from the CPAC, but it was sent by the school district to any parent who had an IEP or a 504 plan. So that although I couldn't personally know all the names, obviously the school administration could, and they could reach a much broader audience than I could with just Pam's network of emails.
Right. Yeah.
We continued monthly email updates to all the subscribing parents. These are the parents that Pam helped put together.
Would has to be on the email list.
That's correct.
Previously.
Yep. Last year we also added 15 new email addresses. So that was quite an accomplishment. We were very happy with that. We also tried to focus on improved communications. So we established regular meetings with special education administration. That also involved a school committee member, Pam. So we tried to meet monthly. We didn't always make that goal, but we certainly met 5 or 6 times last year to talk about ongoing issues. So it was really a nice collaborative effort from the CPAC, from the school committee, and from the administration. We began distributing announcement to parents via the PTA link and via email. So we gave parents notice of upcoming presentations or opportunities for further education and special education. And we also provided educational information to parent and teachers. And we did this through a lot of these presentations. We had a number of speakers come in last year to speak on various topics that we felt would be interesting to parents. Not just parents of children with needs, but also to a broader array of parents. We had one speaker in last year, Dr. Molly Cook, who spoke on executive functioning. And that's obviously a big need in children with special needs, but quite honestly, it's a need for me, it's a need for my children who don't have IEPs, it's
everyone.
So we had 35 attendees, of which I would say probably half were regular parents of a CPAC, and I think the other half were parents who had just seen the advertisement for the presentation and thought, goodness, my kid has a messy room, my kid needs help with homework, I think I could get some help from this presenter. So it was a real successful meeting.
Definitely.
Overall, we had 8 informational presentations last year. So our goals for this year, they really are the same flavor as what we tried to do in 2013. We want to raise awareness of CPAC activities. Again, this is something that is really going to the fact that we need to have a more active CPAC. So the more information we can get out there, the better, at least we hope. Mm-hmm. So we continued the CPAC introductory letter this year. We continued to use the same process that we did. So it was a letter from the CPAC. Dr. Straight was so kind to send it out. We sent out over 200 letters. So that was a success. We will continue monthly email updates to the parents, advising them of upcoming meetings, subject matter, or any other meetings that we're made aware of. Pam has also done a great job of establishing a network of other CPAC, other district CPACs. So we get information from them, and we can.
Together.
That's right, and we can offer our parents to attend these other meetings as well. We will continue to distribute announcements via the Blink and other community news forums. We're in the process of creating a CPAC website. It will be something that is separate from the school district website, but will be an information, sort of, I guess, a pot, so that you will, of information related to special education.
But it'll be linked to the district websites.
It will be linked, but it'll be a separate entity. That's correct. We are increasing our social media presence. I have started a Facebook page for Georgetown CPAC. It was quite disturbing for me since I'm not a Facebook person, but we are starting that. We'll
trail.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. We want to focus this year on increasing parent membership. This is our biggest goal. So what we decided to do to help increase parent membership is to try and schedule presentations that would be interesting, that would sort of call a parent to come out, when time is limited, to come out and attend one of these meetings. And we'll go over some of the meetings that we have scheduled for this year. And again, provide support and information.
Have you ever done any of your meetings as a webcast, so that if someone had trouble getting out of their home, everyone could call in and look at a presentation online? And
I think that's a fantastic idea, and it's definitely something that we need to investigate further. Because if this effort to increase participation doesn't work, I think, quite frankly, that's probably the next thing that we'll try, because maybe that will give people more of the freedom to participate.
Yeah, I mean, that works for sharing, exchanging information, and I mean, certainly you can, have questions and answers going back and forth.
Right.
But if one of your goals is to build a community of people that have that face-to-face relationship building, that's where it's tricky.
Yeah.
But getting information is important too.
That's right.
If you have to do something, because we're looking at the same thing. The idea of, and actually Alana, in her business, one of the things that she did is she did this series, and so there were 11 days or something, but a little email would pop up in your box that said, you subscribed, it would pop up and say, welcome to day 1 of this. Blah, blah.
The teacher renewal project.
Teacher renewal project. And then you'd click on any time you wanted during the day. Whereas sometimes you have to say, you have to be available on 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Sometimes that doesn't work,
Right,
but you click
webinars.
on, and you just listen to the 20-minute presentation, and then you could write your comments if you chose to, and then welcome to day 2. And, but what was nice about it is you could listen to it any time you wanted that was convenient for you. And I found that to be something that I'm like, wow, I really need to remember this, because this was really a good way to get information, and I could do it in my own time.
I think, I think it's a balance that we're going to have to strike.
The
And
balance, yeah.
And sometimes I think getting parents the information is sometimes more important than that face-to-face
Yes,
meeting.
yes.
Although, I certainly don't want to diminish the need for
No.
that as well, but I think you're right. So I think it's an excellent suggestion.
And also the website, another thing that the CPAC is working on this year is a collaborative effort to build a special education district website, which we've made a good start on. And then going back to the CPAC website, sometimes you can attach the presentation materials, that a presenter has, and the information that they have, just to
That's
get
right.
that out there so that
And-
parents can
And I
have
think
it.
using the webinar for when we have outside presenters come in, so that if they missed it that night, they can certainly click on it and watch it the next day. So, yeah, I think it's definitely something. Thank you for the suggestion.
It can be a good idea. You need to, be careful just to view the presenter, because some people, really want.
Releases and,
Right, want their to be
Yeah, I
confidential,
mean,
their
and
presence to be
Alana's wasn't
confidential.
even
So you wouldn't want to take
didn't
pictures of.
involve, looking at the setting. You literally clicked, all you saw was
It's
the
just the
picture of
person,
whoever
just the
was talking,
presenter.
like a
Right.
static picture, but you heard it. It was, she was interviewing the person, and so you listened to the questions and the answers. So, yeah,
Okay.
I understand the caution on that, because
Right.
not everybody is comfortable being
Being
filmed.
videotaped, right.
So I'm going to give you an overview of the presentations that we have scheduled for this year. The first one is actually next week, and it's going to be featuring 2 of our board-certified behavioral analysts, Carissa Bonner from the Pearly School and Sarah Cliffords from the Pembroke School and the Middle High School. They will be talking to parents about what it is that they do, what is a behavioral analyst, and how they can work together with students of all varying needs. In December, we're going to have the first annual Holiday Coffee Connection. This is planned to be more of a social networking outside of the school. It's going to be held in my home, where parents who have children with needs will come and we'll have coffee, sort of talk about what's going on, where their needs are, what they need support with. So it's a less formal environment, and hopefully it's going to be something that will allow them to open up and feel a little more connected to other parents. In January, I'm going to host an effective advocacy program for parents, and this is something that I think is really important for parents, not just parents of Georgetown, but parents, any parents who have a child with special needs. We will go over the best way to advocate for your child, strategies to approach school districts, and it's really more of a getting to yes program where we learn that there are certain ways to approach negotiations. So hopefully it will be a successful presentation. We'll have Dr. Molly Cook come back in February, and she will again be speaking about executive functioning skills. In March, we're having a panel of specialists coming to talk about language-based learning disabilities. And these type of disabilities affect not just students with autism, dyslexia, any sort of general learning disabilities, but it also can affect students who may be struggling in school. So it's going to be a very interesting panel discussion. We are scheduling an assistive technology overview for April. We're still working on the speaker for that presentation. And in June, we will do an end-of-the-year wrap-up and a Shining Star Awards. This was a tradition started by...
That was before.
Been a while.
That was before me.
Comiskey?
Actually, it may have been the first.
Diane
Newton.
might have
Diane
been
Newton was
before
very
that.
involved in it.
Yes.
But
how far back it goes, I don't really
I actually
know.
think it doesn't go much further than I've been here. I think it might have been the first year that I came.
Okay.
So I think 7 years or so.
7 years.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for parents and for educators to nominate somebody that they feel has been an advocate and has really supported the special education program. The other thing that we are planning this year is a transition boot camp. So when children hit age 14, the school district and parents need to start planning for that transition out of school. And it's a very challenging time. There are lots of things that need to take place. And so what we've done is we've partnered with the ARC of Greater Haverhill, Newburyport, and parent advisory councils in Haverhill, Newburyport, North Andover, and Pentucket to host a series of workshops over the next year detailing each step that parents need to be aware of when they're approaching transition age for their children.
And that's a goal in the strategic plan. You probably noticed it when you were reviewing it.
So, the one thing that I thought I would bring up tonight, since I have your attention, is I think the biggest issue that I've heard from parents while I've been CPAC chairperson, and that issue is turnover in the special education department. And so I thought we could talk a little bit about why special education turnover is actually a problem. And what it results in is really, first and foremost, a discontinuity in school functioning. So not only does it affect children, but it really interrupts program development. And, with special education, although you think you have a program set, there's always development. Every program is always changing. It's always a moving target. So to have turnover, to have disruption really affects the quality of our programs in the special education department. And of course, it's also a disruption in staff cohesion. These educators work very closely together, both within the special education department as well as with regular ed teachers. So when we have turnover, it's not something that's just felt by Dr. Straight or you, Ms. Jacobs. It's really something that the schools feel throughout. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's a high financial cost, because certainly when you lose somebody, there's downtime, there's cost to recruiting, there's time to get up to speed. So there is a financial impact. And also, I think something that's worth pointing out is that when you do have turnover, there is an increased rate of noncompliance. So obviously, when you have an IEP, the school is required to adhere to that IEP. It's like a legal contract between the school and the education there to provide to that child. And when you have turnover, sometimes things happens, things gets missed. I mean, it's something that will happen. So, when we have turnover, they've done studies that show there is a significant increase in noncompliance with IEPs. So there is obviously a financial impact to that as well. And I think finally, and most importantly, at least in the mind of parents, is that there is a loss of trust between the parent and the administration and the staff, because they've developed relationships with people, and now there's somebody new coming in, and will they know my child? Will they know me? Will they, will they understand what's going on? So there really is a loss of trust. So it's something that parents are very concerned about. Mm-hmm. So, I thought that I would throw a little information up here about, the effect that limiting teacher turnover has on the ability for students to really fully participate in school. And, the Study of Personal Needs in Special Education is an organization that does a lot of studies on many things in special education, one of which is turnover. And they provide guidance, and they urge staff and administration to really implement plans to lower turnover rates. And the current concern that I've heard from CPAC parents is the turnover in the Director of Special Education position. So we have had a number of directors in the last 5 years, and it's something that parents are concerned about. And we currently have a director who has done a great job. I've heard a lot of positive things from parents. And, I always think that it's a double-edged sword when you hear that, because if I was sitting in your chair, the first thing I would think was, well, she must be giving the parents everything that they want, and maybe,
I know that's not the case.
but you're right, that's not the case.
No.
What we have is a director who's very fair. And, it's something that I just think you as the committee need to be aware of, that it's a concern for the parents. And we have somebody in place now who's doing an excellent job, who's a fair person. And, we just really urge you to make sure that you do what you can do to implement some sort of retention program for this position, as well as other positions like the one we just filled with Ms. O'Connor. And that's pretty much all I have for you tonight. But one of the things that I want to really leave you with, it's a quote that, I think every parent of a child with special needs knows. And it's, if a child cannot learn in the way that we teach, we must teach in the way that the child can learn. And that really is the crux of special education. And it really is the legal obligation of the administration to these children. So that's all I have. Thank you again for letting me speak. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Well, I just wanted to say that I also, heard from the parents of special education children saying the same thing about, the director and great things about Dr. Straight. And I'm sure it is a huge concern when things like that happen, because it is the disconnect between all of a sudden, I know that Carol, you did a great job in that time, but you only had so much time to put into it.
It's a concern. It's a concern for everybody.
Right.
But there's always more to the story, and you can't always explain that to people. We do our best when that happens to find the most qualified person that we can, and offer them the best contracts that we can. Our teachers work as part of a teacher's contract, so that some of that is somewhat static, in terms of what kind of incentive we might be able to offer. But we've been very concerned about it as well. But as I said, we are privy to information that others are not, and that makes it hard, and that creates the upset on people because they only know what they know or they think they know. And as much as you say, you know, I'm really not able to talk to you about all of that, but here's what we're going to do as a result. We understand that the anxiety continues to exist. You know, sometimes people leave for a myriad of reasons. Sometimes, you know, it's closer to home. Sometimes it is more money. Sometimes, you know, they move, they relocate. You know, sometimes they're looking for a different kind of challenge. I mean, we're just lucky to find Sandy. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So, you know, it is a concern. I completely understand and hear that. Nobody was more concerned than me because it all fell to me to figure out what we're going to do about it. On the other hand, you know, as I said, there's often information that can't be shared. And I understand that does contribute to the anxiety. We're thrilled Donna's here. We feel like we're building a really solid special education department every day, and we've hired a lot of new people. I know people get anxious about that. Sometimes they're new and young, and people are worried about that. But you know, I just always want to try to encourage people to give it a try before they just assume it's going to be something negative. You know, so sometimes I try to train myself to worry about what I can control, because I can't control everything, and it's a waste of my energy and time. If you know, so I think it's that trust thing you're talking about, Shelby. It really is important for people to trust.
Well, and I think that you've done a fantastic job. I mean, you have come to so many CPAC meetings and have really been there and have been willing to be open and honest and have transparent communication with the parents. So, I mean, kudos to you for supporting us.
Thank you,
so
but
much.
you know, I think it's a team approach. I feel like everybody works together. You know, we don't look at it as special ed versus regular ed. You know, these are all of our children, and every child. Our mission is that every child reaches their fullest potential. I think where it gets tricky sometimes is in people's definition of what that looks like. And if I have to say that, you know, where I see the communication break down often, and I understand it completely, is when it's your child, it's emotional for people. And when emotions, and then you get into this positional thing where I'm the parent, I know, well, I'm the educator, I know, and you know, that's where it's all about communication. It's generally not about positive intention being there. I think everybody has positive intention. But there's sometimes a disagreement as to what the solution is.
That's right. And
that's
you
where
have
it gets
done an
tricky.
excellent job with training your staff and how to approach parents who are sitting in that difficult position. And I think it really is the role of the CPAC to try and educate the parents. And that's part of why we're offering an advocacy course, is so that parents have a little more background and understanding that you can't just approach and say, this is my child and this is what you're going to do and I know best. And so, you know, that's our job as the CPAC, to work with the parents to make sure that they're coming to the IEP table or to the 504 table as, you know, a functioning, you know, team-oriented IEP member. So
It's that, I think you used the expression, I think it's important, it's that trying to get to yes. Because there's very seldom just one solution. And that's kind of hard. Sometimes when a parent comes in and says, this is what I want, and the staff says, but this is what we think, you know, your child needs, or this is what we're prepared to offer, you know, it becomes this, as you said, adversarial, contentious kind of thing, and it doesn't need to. If everybody comes at it from the perspective of we're going to leave here with the best solution for the child, there are some things that, you know, may be presented to the parent hadn't thought of, give us a chance with it, you know, so it's really about trust and communication at the end of the day. And I hear you, and I think the committee hears you. You know, when there's transition, you know, it's just harder to put that in place.
it's tough for everybody.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
and you build it back up, but it does take time. I
Well,
agree.
you have all done an excellent job. We have a really good special education department right now. We have some fantastic people. So
And it's good to hear you say that. I think we do know how fortunate we are in that way with Dr. Straight here. And team, and team, and all the principals, all the administration,
principals, you know,
yes.
really believe that our mission
Truly.
here is to do is right best for kids.
Yes.
And again, sometimes everybody's not in agreement exactly what that looks like, but you know, with trust and communication, and you know, we get to a better place. You know, when that exists, right?
First thing they taught us in law school was if the parties come away from the table both unhappy, then it was a successful negotiation. So.
And we do have a good emphasis in this district on professional development,
Yeah.
you know, for general education teachers about special education strategies and processes, and, you know, so we're trying to move in that direction more all the time.
Yeah, and the in-house programs is another big step, but anytime you make a change, it does take people time to adjust to it. You do have to provide training, you have to provide ongoing support, you have to provide time for collaboration, but it's worth it in the end if, the children get what they need, so.
And I loved in your presentation that you were, sharing about the giftedness of so many students that do have special needs. And, quite often when a student has a weakness in one area, it's somehow compensated by a great strength in another area. And there are multiple types of intelligences. And just because a child registers one, this one number on some kind of Stanford Binet IQ test or something, that has nothing to do with the other 10 types of intelligence that may not be measured by that test, and if we can find the gifts in all of these children and really reach them and teach to them, then, wonderful things are possible.
Well said.
We have to,
Thank you so much, Elby.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Okay.
Administrative report.
Yeah, so, in your packet, you have a document, that is this year's goals, so you can, put this in your strategic planning binder, in your updates. And then, so basically, the format's just a little different this year because, in the original plan, we took each individual standard with a number and then action steps. But it ends up being a pretty voluminous document, but you notice when we reported to you, we accomplished most of the goals we had set. So this year, when we were thinking about this, we thought, why don't we look at it in a more coordinated fashion, which is really how I think. So what we did, obviously, focus area 1 is the same area. We do that all the time. These are from the state. We have to do this. But if you flip over to focus area 2. What we did is we thought about, what is the important work we're doing, the major things we're doing? And then what we did is we said, look at all the places in the plan it relates. So rather than saying 2A-1, this is what we're going to do. 2A-2, this is what we're going to do. We said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to align curriculum and assessments to the Common Core. This is how we're going to do it, but this is all the places that it relates to the plan. Okay, so it helps us be more focused in how we look at our goals and actions. All right, so in focus area 2, a lot of these things are driven, as you know, by the state and the work that's we're expected to do through the race to the top and the Common Core. So obviously aligning the curriculum to the Common Core. The other thing I added to the document this time is a little due date and time and the person responsible. You don't have that in the one I did for you last year. You just had the strategic goals and the action steps. Okay, so this will help not only the committee, but more importantly, it'll help us as a team to go back and say, okay, we know this is coming up. We're going to complete input of the curriculum units into Atlas. We're focusing primarily on we're going to start with reading and math, or English and language arts and math, but all subjects are working on that on some of the professional development days. That's why we didn't delineate just English language arts and math. So remember, that's a big job, and that's part of why we have some time in those half days in the spring. Remember, this was one of the tasks that we really want to focus on. Student assessments to track performance and determine the need for differentiated instruction. One of the things we're going to come talk to you about in November is a common, it's called a universal screener, which is a test we will give in grades K through 8 that will help to, it's called the MAP assessment. So I don't want to get into it tonight because we want to move forward, but I'm going to bring a presentation to you on the 14th of November. And we have a funding source for it in terms of how we've laid it out, and we'll bring that to your attention as well. So that would be an example of something we would want to add to our assessment plan. We're working on redesigning the middle school enrichment enhancement period. That's a goal for the year. And then modifying and restructuring the mentor program, something Julie's been very involved with. We do have a new mentor coordinator, Amanda Gerard, who's doing a great job. So throughout the year, if you remember on your topics, a number of these things we're going to bring in some members of the vertical team. We're going to bring in, so you'll have some presentations about some of these things that'll be brought in through that. Focus area 3 is student support. So we're going to implement RTI at all levels. You can see that we're not fully implementing it. We're introducing it to the district, and all of the steps that we have here listed are what we're going to take in all the places it relates to the major strategic plan. We're going to implement the landmark school 6 traits model. One of the things, now that we have all of our special education programs in place, now we have to really go in and take a really hard look at, do we have all the elements of the program so that we really have them at the highest quality that they can be. Sometimes when you bring in a new program, you're getting it off the ground, you're working really hard, you're training people. But after you have that in place, then you have to implement, you really can take a more close look. We're at the point now that Donna's been here at least a year and has been looking over these programs. We've been working with the landmark school, which is really well-known in this field. And they have a 6 traits model, and we've already begun to train teachers in that, and that will continue. And you can see from the steps how we're going to do that. And then we're going to develop and implement this, and you heard Shelby speak about this transition program for students that are transitioning, from the high school into whatever their plans are for the future. So that's a major goal this year that they're going to be working on for student support.
Now, she had the ages 14 to 22.
She did. You start talking about it. Children start
14?
participating in the process at age 14, right?
Yes, they start participating in the process at 14. And effectively what you're doing is including them and asking them what their goals are, for children that are appropriate, that you can do that. And you implement that into the IEP. It sets specific community goals, career school goals, life goals, where do they want to live, and you start implementing that in the IEP. Specifically for those students who are 18 to 22 years, what we're looking at is putting a transition program in place for those students who are more cognitively impaired that we're going to have within our school systems until they're 22 years old. So what are we going to do to get them to be members of their community, learn how to ride public transportation, get them involved with the Y, teach them some life skills, teach them some career or job opportunities. So it's a different sort of approach for that very specific group of 18 to 22-year-olds.
Okay. So we're not only looking at that transitioning plan, but then and the language-based program, but we're also looking again at the social emotional programs and the ASD programs. So very similar action steps for those. In terms of focus area 4, which is safety and wellness, we need to convene the wellness committee, and we actually have a little planning session coming up. And I know that Heather Torrey would like to be very involved in that, and she's already made some great changes already, which they had a very fun thing happen today at Pearlie, and I know Dr. Tanner's commented to me on a couple of things that she's noticed that have been, really great, and Joan is actually her supervisor, so she works very closely with her and is always coming in telling me some, great things that Heather's got planned. So she'll be on the wellness committee, and I'm sure we'll be able to, and we have her scheduled to come on in 2 times over the course of the year to give us updates on what she's doing in the area of meeting the nutrition guidelines, which is the next goal. And then one of the things we'd like to do is we'd like to administer the youth risk behavior survey again. We did some baseline data a few years ago, and we'd like to check on, where we are and make some comparisons. So those are the safety and wellness goals that we're really focusing on this year. Information technology, one of the things we've been talking about is creating in anticipation of the merging of the schools, and Pembroke School in particular being the recipient of a lot of technology as part of that plan, and the work we want to do with the middle high school continuing to implement, add more and more technology. The plan would be to, we said, look at the infrastructure for technology, perhaps try to find a way to put a technology director in the FY15 budget, and then increase the access to technology at the middle high school. That's a goal of ours. We have to figure out how we want that to look, but that's a technology goal. And there's a lot of really good things going. We have teachers who are doing Technology Tuesdays, and internal staff that are providing support for other teachers. Obviously, we're automating the curriculum, so there's a lot of technology changes in the wireless environments, and we're doing the new educator evaluation is all done, on Oasis. So, there's been a lot of, even though we haven't had a technology infrastructure, We had a technology plan, which we've been following, even though we've really been doing it creatively through donations and, on whatever budget we can, put together. So if we had an infrastructure and we had an actual technology budget, can imagine what we could do, right? So in terms of 6, what Joan and Mike worked on focus area 6, and this looks a little bit more like the standard plan. So you can see the direct correlation between, the actual goal number, the plan, and the action steps. But they're going to be, we have to figure out what we're going to do about centralizing maintenance with the town. So we've been talking to Mike Farrell about, reinvigorating that little study committee and trying to figure out what ever happened with Mr. Piantadosi's report. So that's something I think has got to be a goal for this year, that we have to have some resolution to it one way or the other. Upgrading the facilities over time obviously continues to be a major goal of ours. Through our preventative maintenance plan as well. We have School Dude, which is a way to track our maintenance tasks, and you had a presentation. Joan, I think, showed you that voluminous document of all the work orders that were done even in just 1 month. But the other thing we've been beginning to work with is something called IT Direct, which is a way to inventory all of our technology. So moving in that direction is really important. And then, obviously, continuing to partner with our GAA, Park and Rec, and CPC to improve the quality of the fields. We're going to talk a little bit just a few minutes about the turf recommendation, and we're going to make a recommendation to you tonight for a design firm, so that project can move forward. But one of the nice things about that project moving forward is it'll give us an opportunity, and also working with, I'm not sure where the survey information turned up, that the the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board, remember, we're doing a survey to try to get an assessment of the needs of the fields, open space and recreation. Yes. Thank you, Pam. And I'm sure we'll be working with that, but the goal would be to figure out a plan for resting fields and continuing to fertilize them. So not only will we have a really nice turf field, but we'll also have
Better
really nice
other fields?
field facilities, which has been a cause of concern, I'll say, for a while. Capital projects, you'll have the opportunity to vote on some CIP requests coming forward. Training for our custodians, obviously a big a big goal, and training them, but also evaluating them effectively. Monitoring is also very, very important. And then basically one of the things under 6D-1 that has been something the Public Relations Group has wanted to talk about for a while, and I've been talking about it as part of my goals, and that is to use, to do maybe a cable television program on the budget process. And, it's very hard to make the school budget user-friendly, but we like to give it a shot. So that's one of our goals, and we'll be talking to Charlie about when we might be able to set something like that up and move that forward. Again, things that Joan started last year will continue, making sure the goals and revolving accounts are part of the budget, making sure we're using Munis to our full capacity. We're not right now. That's something we'd like to continue to work on with the town. There's I'd say a fair amount of duplication of effort. And just the other day I was looking for some information in my previous district, because we were a regional district, we did it all ourselves. We didn't work through the town. But if I said to my payroll person, here's what I'd like, this information, she would literally go in 5 minutes, I'd have the information all synthesized in the report. We don't, because we're doing it in a 2-step process. The process just it just didn't work out the way that I had hoped it would. It became a more laborious job for people because of the way we do it. And I think that's our goal, is to really see if we can't move that process into a little better place. Reimbursement for Medicaid and E-rate. Joan's done a great job, working on that, and the town last year was the beneficiary and will be again the beneficiary, thanks to all the folks in special education and service providers who do the reports. And
What was that amount last year?
it was like, well, it was
I think we ended up with 53,000. But the year before was like
4,000.
Yeah,
It was unbelievable. And actually, yeah, so I
You
think
brought knowledge, though, to the table. You already,
she did, and
And
Donna
Donna,
had, and
too.
Donna
Yeah,
as well.
which
They,
is great.
they knew what was gonna count. You
Right.
See, the secret is to, you know, we had to make some adjustments to the way we did grants, because, you know, some of the positions, once you put them on a grant, they actually, you know, counted more toward, the reimbursement. So it was just a matter of knowing,
Putting the
like,
things where they
yeah,
need to
like,
be.
yes, and,
but what
you
a
know,
lot of lost, well, I mean,
over the years,
yeah,
yeah,
lost
over the
money.
years, yeah. So, you know, that continues to be a goal. And then, finally, in focus area 7, you know, we're heavily involved in the implementation of this evaluation process, for all of us. And then, so basically, we're just continuing that process here. And then the last 3, have to do with, basically the public relations aspect of our plan, which is obviously the goal of increasing communication with the public. We're using a variety of sources, which we'll come back and unveil, you know, for you. We also would like to create and administer a satisfaction survey to parents in the community. So that's something I've wanted to do for a while. The question is, you know, like, what do we want to ask? And so there'll be some work that we're going to be
I have some
be
good
doing on
information
that.
for you on that, which
Yeah,
I can
and other
email.
districts have administered satisfaction surveys, but we just want to
And I
make
have
sure.
samples and I have contacts and
Yeah, that's what we
administrators
need.
and-
That's what we
yeah,
need to
I
start
have-
with, but we
I've
don't
gotten
need
that
to reinvent
together.
the wheel, but yet at the same time, we want to ask the information that's going to drive our thinking and strategic planning. So that's great, Pam, that you
Yep.
have that. I look forward to seeing that.
email that to
And
you.
then we have to negotiate our contracts with the custodian and food service staff this year. So, again, we have an ambitious plan.
very
But,
ambitious.
you know, it is, you know, it is the work we're doing. And it just puts it in a place where, you know, we can all remain focused on it and, you know, discuss it and report on it.
I love the addition of the due dates and the people, and it
Yeah.
really makes them all into SMART goals.
Mm-hmm.
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound.
Well, we'll see
Is
how
that right?
realistic they are, right, guys? But we do get them done. Yeah, we got to put her in the training program. Yeah, so.
November 12th, Pam.
So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll be providing updates for you through some of the things that are in the plan throughout the year, and then of course we'll do we'll do a review at the end with specifically what actions were taken. And you know, the strategic plan is a roadmap. It's not, you know, so prescriptive that there can't be some deviations, but it just kind of keeps us moving in a direction that you know, keeps us on track.
Yes.
It is, it's a lot of work.
It
Are there
is.
any questions on it?
I don't.
All right, great.
Good luck with it.
So the turf field update, we'll talk about, I think when we get to that agenda item a little bit later. Pembroke groundbreaking ceremony, I just wanted to give you I want you to hold a date. And that is November 12th, which is a Tuesday. It is the Professional Development Day. Did talk with the MSBA. The treasurer is unfortunately not able to come on that date. But his schedule's just really crazy anyway. He doesn't make it to a lot of them. But the executive director of MSBA and some members of staff from MSBA are coming on that date. It's at 3:30 in the afternoon. There's a little planning group. Michelle Smith and Carrie Souse, and then Margaret and Donna and I have been meeting on it. The ceremony will be inside, because we're not sure about the weather. It'll be inside, but then everybody will go outside with this for the ceremonial golden shovels in the ground photo
Hard
op,
hats.
you know, the hard hats, the whole 9 yards. Cool. So that, you know, that is all planned. I'm trying to identify the speakers. Senator Tarr's office has been notified, and it looks like Senator Tarr will be able to make it that day, and we're reaching out to the representative. Michelle and Carrie are going to be working on getting some refreshments, maybe some hot cider, maybe donut holes. All the wellness policy. Here we go again. Apples. There probably will be some apples. Well, we will have some fallish kind of treats. But you know, and the thing is, even though it's a professional development day, it will help a little bit just with the logistics if there aren't a million cars around. Of course, the teachers will be there and the administrators will be there for training. But we thought at 3:30, if the teachers wanted to come and join, and then what we'll do is we'll put out a Connect Ed message in in the morning announcements. We'll invite families and their kids to come. We'd love to have families feel that they can come and join, and because it's a day that they're with their kids, maybe there may be more availability of people being able to come. So we'll do some public relations and outreach on something on that.
Wonder how many people will come.
I don't know. Well,
Exciting.
and then
Yeah,
the
very
politicians
exciting.
will want to make speeches, so we're trying to identify, obviously I'll probably say a few words, Barbie will probably have to say a few words. The Board of Selectmen will be invited. The other town departments and boards, will also be invited, and we'll see who's able to come. But it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And then when we have the opening of the school, it'll even be more exciting.
Right.
So. Just wanted to give you an update on that because I really like you to hold the date. It'd be wonderful, if you
my
can
calendar.
come.
Would you be able to come? Yeah, I can.
That's why I figure if we have enough notice, maybe we can get some people. And if you can't come, you can't come. But if you can, it would be great. And then finally, really good news. I put it in your packet. The Georgetown High School was recognized in a story in the Boston Globe called Find Your Dream School. And, looking for a strong program in math or English, a diverse student body, or a lot of college-bound kids. A new tool lets parents locate the best system for their children. And Georgetown, and there was a great article specifically interviewing our teachers. But Georgetown, was ranked very high in this process. And so, I wanted to be sure that the public was aware of it, and I wanted to be sure the committee was well aware. Kudos to, the high school staff and all the teachers and faculty that, and students, really, the students that earn this.
Yeah, I love the last
distinction.
line from Mr. Lucia. It's the best place in the country to live.
I know, yeah. It was fun to be there. I happened to be at the school for something else.
Yeah.
And the Globe reporter was there, and Peter said, "Oh, come on in, you might enjoy this." And it was just very, very nice to listen to the teachers share the strategies and the pride that they expressed, and Peter expressed, and the shared credit, that goes right to the students as well. So it's great. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Be
Did
sure
the
you saw the
students know about it?
Yeah, yeah.
There was a lot of talk?
people talking about it. Like Mrs. Vieira was one of the
Yes,
teachers.
she
who
was,
talking. She came into my A block all excited, talking to me about it.
nice.
Yeah, so the whole school was talking about it when it first came out.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Kudos to all of you for all your hard work.
Congratulations. It's great.
Okay, do we have school reports?
We don't?
Good.
We just, Donna, why don't you come up? Donna, we just wanted to keep you updated about the things that are coming forward, and we have a mid-cycle report. It kind of ties into Shelby's presentation a little bit. In terms of, on a regular basis, we undergo external reviews. And we're due to have an update. So Donna was kind enough to do a memo. So we wouldn't have to necessarily go through every detail for you. But if you have any questions, or Donna, if there's anything you want to highlight in particular, or is it pretty self?
Yeah, I think just a very quick overview for the listening community that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Program Quality Assurance Department, what they do every 6 years is come to the school district and basically do a huge assessment of the special education department. And there's many different elements involved in that, including interviewing parents and staff, interviewing students, reviewing all of our files, looking at our programs, going through our policy and procedures manual, and basically monitoring what is happening, ensuring that we're in compliance. At the mid-cycle, which is where we're at right now, at about the 3-year mid-cycle, they come back. So anything that the district may have been cited on, and all districts get cited on different areas. One area for us, for example, was a requirement of mailing out 2 IEPs, and the district was mailing out 1. So we've just increased that to mail out 2 IEPs to every family. So they're coming back, and effectively they're going to do a mini review of what's happening. So they're going to look at any compliance issues that we had to ensure that, we've addressed them and that we've put procedures or whatever needed to be done in place. Take a look at our programs. So much of what we've been doing is coordinating with the teachers, with the coordinators, as well as with the CPAC members to ensure that our programs are okay. We're putting, things in place for parents to understand. At our last meeting, Pam and Shelby and I, we discussed how can we get that information out to parents. So we're really trying to increase the transparency and public awareness of what is happening within the special education department.
That's great.
All right. No
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Donna.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's why putting it in writing sometimes is helpful, right? You kind of get the information you need, right?
Very clear and informative.
Does anyone have any questions about the superintendent's information for the committee? No? The turf,
Well, where are
do
we?
we want to talk about that?
Well,
While
why
it
don't you, do you, so you have no information, we have no questions
We
about
want to talk about
information.
subcommittee reports first?
Yeah, let's do that,
Okay.
because I don't think there's much to report there, so.
Okay, budget and finance, Rob's not here.
Right.
Governance, Alana's not here. Negotiating,
Is
we
that what
haven't met.
Nope, nope.
But we will be
But-
soon.
Yes, and we yes, well, we have a couple things to deal with, but, we do have to set up some times to begin negotiating with those two unions.
Right. Public relations, Pam?
We have not met recently, but we do have a meeting planned tomorrow morning?
No, Laura's saying no.
No.
That doesn't sound familiar to me.
Okay. Well then.
We must
Maybe
have.
Laura, you can tell me, we have one, because I thought it was like the last Friday
I don't know.
of.
It's
every
not
month.
on the calendar for tomorrow, though, so we'll
Okay,
take
well,
care of
we
that
will
tomorrow.
establish a meeting time and date soon.
Yes.
And safety
and-
hasn't met?
Right.
Since the
And
last
safety
meeting?
has not met.
Okay, and school building, they haven't met?
No.
No. We already did the NUMLEX, so,
So, yeah, so now we are,
And CPAC has not met, except there will be a meeting October 29th, as Shelby mentioned.
go Red
what's the date?
Sox.
October 29th. yeah.
Yes.
He didn't see,
7
he wasn't
o'clock at
watching.
Pembroke
That's
School.
what happens, Mr. Lucia, when you're, no score, you been following it?
7 o'clock.
All right. So there's no score of the Red Sox game, I
Okay.
believe Mr. Lucia told me. Bottom of the second.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Enjoy.
update.
Hey, these smartphones are so handy.
Yeah, they sure are. All right, so now, let's see, where do we want to go? Do you want to do the approval of the policies quickly?
Sure.
Pretty quick.
Okay, approval of updated bullying policy.
Okay, do you want to say anything about that, Lorene, or you want me to, or?
I'll let you handle it. I've
Okay,
got
that's
that folder
fine.
with me.
So you have the new version and the existing version. And the only change, and the reason that you don't have to go through the 3 iterations of this is because it's just a modification, it's not a new policy.
Yep.
So, the law changed, before it was just referencing students, but now they require by law that bullying is the repeated use by one or more students or member of the school staff, including but not limited to an educator, administrator, school nurse, cafeteria employee, custodian, bus driver, athletic coach, advisor, or extracurricular activity, paraprofessional, or member of the school. What is it?
School
Members of
staff
the sc-
doesn't cover all of that? Just-
Well, this isn't my decision, this
Okay.
is their decision.
Legal, okay.
So basically, that's all it does, is it adds that to the policy. So it doesn't just focus now on this, the bullying can be student to student.
Right.
It does expand that to say that there could be,
Now, when
adult
you say
member of the
they,
school staff.
so was it the committee's decision to add all these?
No, you have to.
No, it was a
That's what-
It was the law required
law.
it. The law
Really?
changed.
So even members of the school committee?
Yes.
Were put in there?
I guess you can't bully,
We're
Barbie.
we're no different than anyone else, I mean, absolutely right,
That's
right.
interesting.
We shouldn't be bullying anybody.
Well,
So now that the policy is approved, we'll get it out, in update our policy books, but we'll make sure it gets distributed to the staff. Every year there's faculty handbooks, the student handbook would need to reflect the change. And again, this is a change in the law. It's not an option that we have. So we would recommend that you vote to, adjust this policy.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the changes to policy JICFB, bullying as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
And the other task is one in which it's really for your review and comment, should you wish to, but this is our managing the care of students with athletic concussions policy. And we are required I think it's every 2 years, to do a review of the policy and kind of recommit to it. So I sent, after talking with the subcommittee, and the committee actually as a whole, I think, acknowledged that I should send a letter to the state saying that we had reviewed the policy, with the expectation that I would come back at this meeting with the actual policy, so that if you had any chance to review it and had any questions or concerns, then obviously it could go back to the policy subcommittee. Otherwise, this is our policy, there's no action needed by the committee at this time, and then we
didn't see any changes.
and
that
then
we
there wasn't a
wanted to make.
recommendation for a change from the from either the athletic department or the subcommittee of the school committee.
Okay. Do you have any questions about it? Thank you. So that nothing needs to be done
Nothing
now?
needs to be
Okay.
done. No.
So
And
then it would
now
just
we're
be the
down
chart.
to the last agenda, right? So Joan gave you some some packet on your table. Joan, you want to kind of
Sure.
lead people through that?
So we went out to bid for design services. I'm sure you are all aware, for the synthetic turf field. We had quite a bit of interest. It appeared we had quite a bit of interest through the virtual town website, where people could go to get this. They have to log in to get a copy of the spec for the RFQ. But in the end, we had four companies show up to the mandatory site visit. And of those 4 companies, 3 design firms put in bids. And, you have the bid that actually won, going through the request for qualification process. They were rated. There was a subcommittee of 4 people appointed by the staff committee.
Staff committee.
And the
They
school
were
committee, kind of.
Well, they were the staff committee, but Mike Farrell, as the chief procurement officer, his advice was to have it be a smaller rather than larger committee. And the people who were selected tended to be the people on the staff committee who had some experience working with building projects. So, for
Yes.
example, Sandy Garrity is the business manager in the Public Works Department
Of Andover.
in Andover. So, and she's obviously the head of the Finance and Advisory Committee. So, she was one that was on it.
And Peter.
Peter Durkee, who's very involved in public works projects, obviously. John Pingree, who, is representing the GAA, because they're important partners in this process, because they're they're making a donation actually to pay for the installation costs as well as the turf field itself, and then will subsequently be making another donation for the replacement of the turf, putting an escrow account together that will obviously build up toward, having the money for a replacement in 10 to 15 years. So obviously they have a seat at the table because of their heavy investment. And then Mike Anderson, who, is the facilities director.
So when we received 3 proposals last Friday, so we made arrangements for each of the committee members to come in and pick up a copy of the proposal. And we had a minimum criteria for them to be considered, and then we had an evaluation criteria that they were going to have to rank each proposal on. So
It's included for you.
So you each have a copy of the individual score sheet. So each person on the committee left with the 3 proposals and the sheets to rank them. So they did them by themselves individually over the weekend. We met last night, and Mike Farrell did come to that meeting, and he had been through this process before. So he went through and he took the scores individually as people reported them, and then he collected the tally sheets, and then he had scored them on a grid that he has used in the past based on the weight of the criteria. So, for example, the firm experience was the number 1 criteria that we were looking for, and so that was more heavily weighted than the other criteria. So you have a little spreadsheet that showed that Gale Associates came out as the top firm for the evaluator scores. And with an RFQ and for design services, you don't open any price proposals until after they've decided who was the top proposal. That was, the one that you would hope that you could get to an agreement with. So then we opened the price proposals, and we were very happy with the proposal from Gail. I included that spreadsheet. There's a lot of numbers on the spreadsheet, but right in the middle of the spreadsheet, it's the fee estimate is $66,000, $66,070, which really fit into the GAA's original proposal of what they would be able to afford to spend for design services. I called the representative from Gale Associates this morning to tell them we'd be coming forward with a recommendation to the school committee tonight to award the contract to Gale, and that we would sit down, I hope, at the beginning of the week and negotiate a contract.
Right.
So I gave you, Barbie, did you get it? I gave you a suggested motion.
Yes, I do
Okay.
have it. Yeah.
Right, so after we have any questions that you might have, Barbie has a motion that we'd like to, and if we can approve it tonight, that would be great, because I'm gonna call Gail tomorrow and let him know that it's a go, and of course pending successful negotiations, but we don't anticipate that to be a problem.
Yep.
And then, as soon as they get started, they'll be in touch with the Conservation Commission, because we want to make sure there's plenty of time, for that process, given its proximity to the brook.
For that April timeframe.
For the April timeframe, because our goal is to have it completed in July. So it would be, the original, I think the timeline is construction begins in April.
Correct.
But we anticipate we're gonna need more than maybe a month for permitting. So because it's Gale and they've done already some preliminary work, we're thinking that there's probably gonna be some time saved with not having to do as many tests or designs, because they've already got a preliminary design. It's a question of whether or not they look again and is this the design we really want moving forward. And then I think we're going to be able to start the process of the permitting sooner than might have happened if we chose a firm that wasn't involved in the project.
Like they were. Right. Okay.
So thank you, Joan. So. Do you have any
I-
specific questions?
well,
I know
I
you
did
went to
at
the meeting
I
and
did go to
Barbie
the
went to the
meeting
meeting.
last night, and I was just very impressed with what everyone was saying about Gale, and that they had put in the turf field in the North Reading district, and that everyone in North Reading was extremely pleased with their service. They were on time, they were on budget, good quality, easy to work with, accessible.
2.6, I think, and
Right,
they came
yeah.
in at 2 million,
right.
which was great. And Peter had actually said that the woman at North Reading was actually wanting to go with CDM. Originally, that was her
Correct.
thought,
Yeah.
until she met Gail and was so impressed with them.
And now she's so impressed with them that she will work with us if we work with Gale.
Yeah,
She
which
will
is great.
advise us.
I mean, I know there are
Yeah.
members of the public who are aware that Gail did some initial work on the project, but I want to reiterate again that, every step of this project was done, with complete transparency and fairness for all of the firms who expressed interest.
Right.
In fact, Mike, as the chief procurement officer, part of the reason for him running the meeting last night was because, to ensure that the process, in no way, violated any protocols.
Right.
Gail's proposal, obviously, it was consistent. And one of the things that I think is also important is kudos to the group who did the work on the reviews, because you could tell that they had really put thought into it. And they had
a lot of
called a
references.
lot of references.
Wow, I couldn't get over that.
I think everybody's goal was to come up with the design firm that, would be the best fit for Georgetown and would give us the best product. And I have to say, I believe that the process was very fair, very open, very transparent, and run, very, very well.
Yeah, I agree.
The references are key.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joan, so this is just a question that I have. If 4 companies came forward, but only 3 showed up, So why do you think, right?
No, 4 showed up
At the site visit.
at the site visit.
Oh, okay,
and
right, but only 3.
I know.
So what makes
I
you
know
think-
why, because one of our minimum criteria was belonging to, I won't get the acronym right, but it's like the American Sports Builders
Oh, okay.
Association. It was a credential that we had put in there. I actually think it came from Rob.
Rob,
Yeah.
yeah, Robert
And
felt strongly.
there was a company that came to the site and walked the site and wanted to bid, but they didn't meet that
Oh,
minimum
okay.
criteria. And Mike Farrell said if it's the minimum criteria,
And
and so they decided not to.
And really, all it
Submit a
involved
proposal.
was to call that, look on the website and sign up for a,
Right, it was
really?
for a nominal fee, and,
Right.
you
they
know.
chose
so-
not to.
So it didn't seem like it was a really tough requirement to meet,
Mhm.
but one that we thought was important, so.
Right. Okay,
So I guess they said, we don't meet your minimum, so we're not gonna.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they wanted Mike to waive it, and he thought about it. He went back to his office and looked into it, and then he went back to them and said it's minimum criteria, so.
Well, that's good. I think that,
Me too.
and it was fair too, if that's
Yep.
the minimum criteria. Okay, are we ready to make a motion? Okay.
And this has to be a unanimous vote because there's only 3 of you.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to be unanimous.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the school committee, that the school committee approve the recommendation of the subcommittee of the Synthetic Turf Advisory Committee to award a contract for design services to Gale Associates and authorize the superintendent to negotiate a contract not to exceed $73,000.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's exciting too.
We are very excited about this.
They're clearly the front runner with these ratings.
Right,
They are, they really are.
But, you know, it's important to go through the process, right?
Oh,
You know, because when people do things and rate individually, you don't really know what each other's thinking, right?
No, and they didn't. None of them got together, and they all sat down, and I was surprised
best
when
way
they
to
started
choose.
going through it.
Mhm.
That there were some little differences, but the majority were right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So were they excited, were they happy?
Yep.
Yeah, she said they were very excited.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I have never gone into executive session, so, we're going to adjourn this meeting
Yes,
and go into an executive session under MGL,
right, and we will not return to,
Chapter 38, Section 21, Paragraph 4, for the purpose of discussing security, not to return to open session.
Right.
At 9:02.
and you have to do a roll call.
Roll call.
Maureen Polignoni?
No, just say yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you're all set, Mary Beth, thank you very much. But it's hard to sneak off. You can feel free to do that anytime, though.
You know, if you
Don't
really
feel
need
you have to
Okay,
stay here
yes.
till, I mean, we
She'll
don't want to
leave
be
after she says
responsible
her
for it,
report.
you getting anything but an A.
I'd love to have you here, but if you feel
Yeah,
like
that's
you-
important.